Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is going to talk about something that generally is not ever talked about. We talk prophetically about generational wealth, how the rich put systems into place for their families so that it generates more money, generates more wealth, more privilege for them. And here's the thing, that by default, in some of the things that we teach or fail to teach, that those who don't have nearly as much privilege as the elite wealthy and some of the richer families around the world that have managed to keep wealth around, say like the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, we could go on and on. By default, we are actually teaching our children to stay generation after generation impoverished. And Jasper Smith, our next guest, is going to talk about how we can end that problem, how we can actually start to put systems in place so that we can end generational poverty and find generations to be freer and freer as our children, our grandchildren start to grow and live happier lives. So let's bring Jasper on the show. So, welcome to the show, Jasper. And I know you got this really cool story about how and why you actually got started in the financial business. And everybody can see here that your message is, let's disrupt generational poverty. And you even trademarked it. So, it's got to be some serious stuff. So,
it was out of all of this came about from a project. So the whole disrupt generational poverty was a project I was working on at an organization. They didn't phrase it the same way, but they had mentioned generational poverty. How do we interrupt it? How do we change it? And I was just like taken away. I was like, I've been in the industry this long and I had never heard of it. But it got me thinking. In my industry, we talk a lot about generational wealth. And it's always generational wealth. It's legacy. It's generational something a little more positive if you have to, if we're using language. But poverty is a mindset. Right? Being broke just means you don't have any money. That's a physical thing, but the poverty is a mindset. And so I just started thinking about my career and interactions that I've had with people. And you can hear this kind of same or similar story no matter where they were from. And I was like, this is crazy. That you know better, but there are future generations who believe the same thing you believe. Mm-hmm. And now it has them in the exact same position, which I felt like it could have been avoided. And so part of this effort that I'm working on is really changing the way we think and feel about money. I don't know what that means to certain people, but I love exploring that conversation, saying, just tell me what you think about certain things. Tell me how do you feel. And then if I can get this out of them, tell me why. Because the why opens up a whole can of worms. And then you listen. So as a financial planner, as an expert, like I listen to what people are telling me about what they want to do. And then in my brain, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I help them by making sense of what they just said and giving them something very, I'll say, easy to implement or to execute? Because what I've experienced is a lot of us know what to do, we're just not doing it.
Oh, that makes
And then
sense.
and then we end up with this. Well, I'm a parent, so now my kids have the same issues I have, and then my kids have kids, and they have the same issues as we all have. So now you've got multiple generations who may think and feel the same way about money, and it might not necessarily be the right thing. And so, how do we disrupt that way of thinking? How do we unpack those emotions? And if, again, people give me the courtesy of opening up and sharing,
Mm-hmm.
those are the meetings that I love.
Yeah.
The person who can stay open just to have the conversation. Doesn't mean you're going to work with me. And I'm very clear when I speak to people, Michael, is I am just one of many financial experts who exists. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I have my style. I have how I like to operate. It might not be for you, but I always recommend that people try to find that person, that group of people who they can work with so we can disrupt these cycles. It's I don't want to say it's easy to do, but with a little elbow grease and a little bit of
Yeah.
belief,
Yeah.
we can get this done.
Well, see, you just said a key word that I say this all the time, that believing is seeing. And it's like when you have the belief, you see the vision comes to life, right? And as it sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you believe that you can disrupt this issue, and you have the vision.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I, again, I couldn't frame it when I first started in my career. I couldn't explain it the way I just did. It was just I was in sales, I was doing insurance and investments and retirement planning. Like I was all over the place. But I know a lot about the financial services industry. But what good was my knowledge if I'm not actually helping people?
right,
And so, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, when I first started out in this career, it was a money thing. It was like, oh my God, these people make a ton of money. But then you understand and learn that it's not as easy as it may look for some, but they've had some time to build it.
yeah,
And so what I heard from a lot of my mentors was you've got to build relationships with people. What you
mm-hmm.
sell them is like an afterthought. They were like, just get to know what these people are trying to do and actually help them. And sometimes it's going to involve you not getting the deal. But if you can
right,
present in a manner that's not too pushy, and I've been the pushy sales guy before, it just didn't work well for me. And so I have a different approach of trying to ask more questions and learning more. But then once I've got a good idea of what we're trying to do, it's very easy for me to offer the solution. But then it's still up to you to kind of implement and execute. And I think that's where the big drop off is. So I'm trying to serve as this bridge between the goals, the dreams, the things you want in your mind, like the lifestyle you want to live, and then it's across this way. So I'm like the bridge. So you can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can feel it, but we're just not there yet. And it's like, how do you get across to achieve that goal, to achieve that hit that milestone? You're not gonna do it by yourself.
no,
So I want to partner with people and figure out how can I help, be it something minor, be it something massive, to help you to achieve financial peace of mind. That's what I'm working on.
So I got two questions for you at this point, right? First one is, what does money mean to you? And second is, what does wealth mean to you?
Ooh, okay. So money, it's a tool that we need. That's about as far as I go with money. It's a tool that helps us to live our lives. We need to understand how to use the tool effectively, and if we understand how to use the tool, we can use it to our advantage. Just like a hammer, right? A hammer
Mm-hmm.
lying on a table is useless, but if you know how to use it and you can pick it up, and start swinging it and hitting nails, you can go build stuff. So that's how I look at money. It's something just that we need to operate in this lifetime. To your second question around wealth, wealth means to me, gosh, I don't want to use the cliche one where it means freedom, but it is because everybody says it means freedom. It also means you have choices and options. So when I think of wealth, I think of, I have options. So I'll give you an example. I graduate high school. Maybe I just don't want to go to college right now. Maybe I want to go on a trip to explore and figure out who I am. Well, when you have wealth, or when you come from means or some privilege, there's no immediate need to maybe go to school or to work if there's money available for you to go explore. And so you see, it became this thing of like kids taking the gap year. Like that's a norm in a lot of people's life. Like they took that year to really think, to figure out who they were. Then they decided, okay, now I'm ready to go pursue some additional education or maybe get into the workforce. When you don't have wealth, or you have to go to school, you have to get the job. And some people have to get the job and go to school at the same time because they have obligations.
Yeah.
So it really, so wealth for me opens up different options for you and your family, or maybe those who are yet unborn in your family. And somebody kind of broke this down interesting to me one time. I was listening to a show, and he was like, wealth is, you go on a vacation, and it doesn't matter how you get in there or how long you're going to stay. Because when you can just pick up and leave, and you can just, go all out and not worry about your bills, like you something has happened to allow you that type of freedom and ability just to pick up and go. If you think about kind of on a smaller scale, in that same interview, the gentleman said, it's kind of like when you're hanging out with your friends and you all go out to eat. See, when everybody's doing well financially, it doesn't matter who picks up the tab.
Right.
I was like, you're right. Because if everybody understands the tool of money, how to use it, and maybe we have some savings, some investments, like we're not worried about who pays the bill. And so he started telling these stories of like how people go through life and just, I think for most people, they dream and fantasize about being financially successful. But then that's not playing out in our lives. Maybe call me naive, but I believe we can live out the dreams in reality. But it's going to take some work.
There you go.
It's going to take some work.
Just a little work, right?
Just a little bit. There's going to be some risk involved. We're not going to win every battle, but we've got to be willing to try. And I'm a realist, Michael, so I understand that sometimes life is just going to happen. So somebody may, leave this earth too soon. There are divorces, there are job changes, I can go down a list of just life stuff that will happen that, okay, how do we get past that? Because life is going to throw a lot of stuff at us, and we won't know. We can't see the future. But if you got a good idea of what your future wants, if you have an idea of what you want your future to be like, then it makes my job really, really easy. Because it's clear to you. I can show you a guide, a checklist, a few things to consider, and then we can get across that bridge. Because right now, I think a lot of people are standing there and they're looking at whatever the goal is, and they're just like, how am I going to get there? And it stresses us out. And we're working really hard, but are we working smart? Are we asking for help? Or are we doing our own research? And so how do we navigate all of that? It's just too much for one person. So I'm a financial planner, and I still work with other financial practitioners because I don't want to know it all. I don't have that kind of time. I can't watch that many YouTube videos and become an expert by watching the internet. I need to talk to people who do what it is that I need to get done every day. And so I look at, if my tooth started hurting right now, I'm going to go call my dentist. I'm not going to go online and try to figure out, why is my tooth hurt? Maybe it's a cavity, maybe it's gum disease. I don't know. But there are people who really want to know, and they will waste time trying to figure it out, and then the problem will spread. And so when I look at generational poverty, it's almost like that same type of thing where we know we should do better, and then we don't, and then something happens.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm going to take a different view on generational poverty because it's something that I actually saw. Now, granted, back in the days when I talk about video, I'm actually talking about real film clips, projector against the screen with the slideshow sort of thing, right? And there was a documentary that I saw as a child. I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old, and the documentary was recorded during the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about welfare as a problem. Now, I'm getting to the generational part because what this one character in this film said was, if it was good enough, it's good enough for me because it was good enough for my father and my grandfather ahead of him to receive a check from the government. Right? So when you talk about generational poverty, I figured and you're talking about this toothache that is like, it's the same toothache. Oh, here, I'm going to make sure this tooth hurts for you the same as it hurt for me my entire life, and I'm just going to keep passing out, and you're going to do the same. You're going to pass it to the next generation that you give birth to, because that's just how our family's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So you want to break that cycle, right?
I do, but it's hard. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm like everybody. I'm young, right? So people say, well, you have time to figure things out, but I've lived long enough to see enough that it scares me. And so I literally just had an instance yesterday of something that we're talking about right now, where a mother lost her son, and he was fairly young, and there wasn't a proper plan. There was a plan, it wasn't robust enough. Like, it just wasn't enough. It was okay, but it's causing so many issues for the mother, for the son who now has no father, the other relatives. And as we were talking, I said, this could have been avoided, right? And she was like, absolutely. And now she's kind of become this champion of, take care of your business while you're here, because we all are living on borrowed time. We don't know when the day is going to be our last. And so she's like, you could hear it in her voice. Like, it was just a phone. I could hear it. Like, you're going through this process. And I said, imagine a world where we lose a loved one and you literally can just grieve. Not go to work, not worry about the bills, not worry about the kids. Like, just imagine if you could just grieve. And grieving, it's a process, and it's different for everybody. Every single person grieves differently. And so I said to her, but just imagine if we did a little bit more planning as a society, how many more people could lose a loved one and then just not work for a whole year, just so they can get their mental back on point? Because she's still, I was her firstborn. And my heart goes out to her because I know her. But then I think of the millions of other people who've experienced the exact same thing she's experiencing right now. Like, I know there are millions of people who could say, that happened to me, that happened to somebody in my family. Like, we all know somebody where it wasn't set up properly, and so now the remaining family members, have some issues on their hands.
Yeah. You see that a lot, or I've seen in some instances where it was a teenager that a tragedy happened, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, here, let's set up a car wash so that they can bury their child. Right? It doesn't have to be that way. Now, granted, I always made sure that I went through the car wash, you know, because it's like, hey, you got to do what you do what you got to do for your community too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go through the car wash because you don't want to just hand them money because
Yeah.
that may not make them feel comfortable. When you go through the car wash and you give a big donation on the other side of the car wash, people feel like,
Yeah.
well, at least I washed his car. I did something,
Yeah.
and he's just being generous. But there's lots of those situations in there.
Yeah. I mean, even that example of the car wash and the community coming together. I mean, nowadays you have, and pick your favorite crowdfunding platform. I mean, they market towards, here's how you do I don't know the exact name, but it's like call it your death campaign or your loss of a loved one. And there's a whole page on like how do you market, how you set it up, how do you share it. I don't knock the somebody thinking about an opportunity because I understand the society we live in, but I started thinking about, so I don't have the assets, the insurance to cover whatever it is we need. So now I've got to go ask complete strangers who don't know me, my family member who passed away, and now I got to hope that I pull on enough heartstrings to get them to donate. Just like the car wash, I got to get enough people to drive through there to get the money. And so even if the campaign is successful, well, there's a fee involved for them doing that work. So you don't even get the number you were targeting or the goal. So you hit the goal, but you get a little bit less because of probably fees. Yeah, 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 yeah. Nothing. Right. But to your point, Michael, that's the point where people they'll do these campaigns. I mean, it got so bad where when there's an untimely death, I mean, they even promote those on the news. Hey, there's a campaign for such and such who just lost their life. Let's support them. And it's like I understand that the media coverage is helpful, but I think of, so let's say you hit the number and the campaign works. What happens to the family afterwards? And it's a conversation that's not easy to have with your loved ones while they're here. Because some people are very private. And so maybe I just don't want you in my business. You too nosy. So I understand that. So when you leave this earth and you leave a mess for me, I can't call you to ask you what you wanted to happen. Oh, by the way, and if you didn't have any plans, now a judge is deciding who gets what. Like I don't want to be too harsh in how I say this, but I had a mentor was telling me, he said, having a really good like plan for your family is like the best love letter. Like the best way to show your love is to have these things taken care of. It's a love letter. And he said, you're not questioning people's love for their family, but just in reality, we hear too many of these cautionary tales of how it went the wrong way versus, well, how many times did you try to actually help this person to do what it is they needed to do? And I would challenge all of your listeners to think about this. How far will you go for your family? I love my family, so I don't mind jamming them up. It's not comfortable, but if I'm going to get left with a mess, I at least want to know what the mess is going to be. Like, I don't want to be surprised with that mess, especially if it could have been avoided. If we could have done a few things to help ensure that whatever is left, we'll be able to manage it. And we know, again, our lives are still going to be disrupted. But when I think of how many families are negatively impacted when it could have been avoided, that's what drives me, Michael. I don't care what product it is. I don't care Because the product itself does not matter to me because there's a product or a solution for everybody. I just want to know which one makes the most sense for you at the right time.
Right.
And then we make adjustments along the way. Because as life changes, our financial plans should change. And they should be updated. Just like the apps on your phone. You just hit the button and hit accept to get the latest version. I can't tell you to do the same thing with your financial plan, but I wish we would update our financial plans as much as we update the apps on our phones.
Yeah, that makes sense. We pay more attention to what is on our phone than we do what is actually happening in our lives.
Yeah.
So, you're completely compassionate about this, and in I think you're going to do something that eventually that's going to help a lot of people with their financial planning and their and their situation, so they can just live better lives. It's like it would be really cool, like you said. I'm going to go a step further, and I'm not going to just center on death. I'm also going to center on birth, because wouldn't it be nice? It's like to live like, okay, you know what? Both parents are able to stay home and take mat leave or pat leave or whatever, right? And watch the baby grow. It's like those first that first year or that first 2 years until the kid becomes self-aware. It's like there are amazing things happening as this little person is growing, right? And we get to miss out on it because, oh yeah, I owe. So off to work I go, right? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm living that life you're describing, where I've spent a lot of time. My daughter is literally almost 1, and I've thought about that even prior to my wife and I having a child. I said I want, like, visibility matters to me, and like you said, you miss those. It's those small moments. You're like, yeah, she didn't do that yesterday. Oh my gosh, she didn't. Like, you keep seeing it. You're like, you miss out on a lot because you have to work so much. And I understand we have to work and earn a living, but then this goes back to this whole wealth piece where, like you said, what if we could just take a break? What if I could take every other month off and not worry about my bills? It's weird because it's just not typical. Because there are countries in this world where it's not all about work. It's not all about the dollar.
Yeah.
It's not all about the money. It's about quality of life. It's about your health. And so I think we all as humans are trying to strike whatever balance looks like to you. That's what you should strive for. Because the whole work life thing is, again, somebody popularized it, but it's like, look, yes, you need money to survive and live, but work also drives people to an early grave.
Yeah. Well, we also need to define work on that one too, because I shock people when I say that I have no plans on retiring. As long as I can hold on to that microphone or that camera, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, right? Because it's what I love to do, right?
Exactly.
Okay. With that being said, I'm not exactly goofy either, in the fact that I have things in place so that if something happens to me, because I can tell you a couple of stories where I was walking with a political figure during a campaign, and I almost got run over by a truck.
Wow.
Now, what do you think that would do to my ability to be able to do the work I do? Right? Thank God the political figure yanked me out of the way of a truck, and yes, he did get my vote. That's another story. But we got to have things in place because life does happen, like you said, right? So how do you help people figure out, the what could happen in the extreme measures so that they can be prepared for it. How do you figure those things out?
Really good questions. It starts every conversation with just I'll call them kind of these basic questions of I want to know more about what you like to do, what makes you tick, like where, like I want to learn more about you before we get into like the product stuff. And so there was a process I was taught years ago of really trying to make the connection to learn more about like the individual. So are they married? Do they have kids, pets? Stuff. I just want to know. I just think it makes you, it helps you to stand out from the pack of just, hey, I want your money, Michael. Hey, Mike, I can help you. Hey, Michael, let me say this. Versus, hey, Michael, so tell me a little bit about your family. And so honestly, man, I'll spend more time in the meeting just getting to know people unless they do have an immediate need and they tell me that right from the beginning. So I still will say I want to build a relationship, but the relationship might be Jasper, sell me this right now because I need it. Okay, we'll get back to the other stuff, but I just want to let you know I do want to learn more about you because what you find is you'll ask a simple question and I'll anticipate a simple response and then it will just blow up into this whole large conversation. So I was talking to a young lady. We were talking about like helping her with her credit. And as we're talking, she was like, there's just so many things that are bothering me about like money and this. I was like, what else is bothering you? So we'd already talked about credit for like 30 minutes. I said, what else is bothering you right now? And she was like, my retirement stuff is bothering me. I'm taking care of an elder parent and I don't know how to talk to, Michael, it just opened up the floodgates. And what she said was, she's like, Jasper, nobody's ever asked me that question. And I was like, all I asked was, what's bothering you? Like, this wasn't it was I think sometimes we complicate talking about money because of what's been pushed at us. Or what we haven't been exposed to. But when I asked the question of what's really bothering you, I gave her like the key to the door. Forget the key. She busted through the door and just started listing off stuff that was bothering her. And I said, okay, great. I said, I'm trying to take notes as fast as you're talking, but let's do this. I know what number one on your list and number two is. And then I got the confirmation. I said, so how about we try this? You rattled off 7 things to me. We can't do all 7 today. How about we focus on those first 2? And she said yes. I said, I can't snap my fingers and change the world, but if you're willing to go on this journey with me, I promise you I'll be the best navigator possible. So I'm going to hold up the map. I'm going to try to say turn left, turn right, speed up, slow down, watch out for that. As long as we are here, as long as we are being open and honest and transparent, I think we will go far on this journey. Don't know where we're going to end up, but I know you got 2 things that are really eating at you, and I need to get those off your plate like today or yesterday or as soon as that's humanly possible. So we might not be able to check them off completely, but maybe, if we have like a progress bar, we get 60, 75%. So I just need you feeling better because when you said what you said about number 1, I could hear it and it was a virtual, I could hear it and see it in your face that it was bothering you. And those emotions, Michael, as I'm asking people questions, it's raw. This isn't fake. This is bothering you to the core. And this is the first time you've actually released it.
Right.
It's an incredible thing to just sit back and hear people kind of share. And then I try to end the meeting with, a call to action. Like, hey, are we going to work on this today? Tomorrow? Like, can we get this done? And if not, that's okay. I don't push anymore. You just told me what you want to do. So if it's important enough, is there anything that's stopping us from moving forward and getting busy? And I've said that in the meeting. I just want to relate to people. I'm not trying to, it's just, are you ready today? And if not, there's never going to be the perfect day. And I think that's the challenge for me is dealing with like human behavior and understanding that although it was the right thing to do at the right time on the perfect day and all that, something in your gut still tells you, I'm not sure. And that's going to take time. Right, so most meetings aren't a one and done. I got to do a couple of meetings, a couple of follow up. You probably want to talk to somebody else to see if I'm legit. So, because you also want to compare, right? Well, Jasper had a good story, but let me ask a few more people. And so I call that out in the meeting. So I'll say, look, I'm going to assume you're going to talk to other people, other firms, and so on and so forth. Here's what you want to be aware of. How quick do they get to the solution? That is very telling on their motives. How quick?
Yeah.
They're willing to take a little time with you. And some people, again, we got to be mindful of timelines and deadlines because that helps push us forward. But if they're a little too pushy with like the solution, might not be a good fit. Or if you are having that engagement with them, and just, if you're into like, the energy, if the energy isn't right, it's not gonna work. You can't make it work. I'm married now, but I've not had good energy with women I dated. What's gonna work?
Oh.
It was nothing that I was gonna be able to do that was gonna make it work. I tried and failed miserably, but I started realizing, like, Jasper, there's something off, and you know it. You might as well just cut ties right now.
Right.
So even with the financial planning process and financial services, I want to know, again, how soon can we get started, and if I'm the right fit for you. And if not, let me try to find somebody else, because fit matters. And it's your money, so you should be able to decide.
Yeah.
Where you go and who you do it with. It's your money, so you should have the decision. It's not me.
Well, do you think people are? I don't know. Are people too willing to just hand over the controls of money to whoever?
Very few. Very few who understand that time, like now is the best time to act. Mm-hmm. And granted, I think the people who've done it and had success, they've also gotten burned quite a bit because they have been a little eager. So on the flip side, I think about opportunities that people miss because they never make a decision. So an issue that I have with a lot of my people is it's called paralysis by analysis, or analysis paralysis, whichever way you want to say it. So they will listen to a conversation like we're having.
Yeah.
They'll already know what they need to get done. They hear me talk, read something I've written, and then they still kind of, well, let me check some other source. And then they go to YouTube, then they sit through another webinar, and then before you know it, a year has gone by and they've done nothing. Maybe the stock market went through the roof. Maybe had they, that property they were looking to buy, had they bought it, it would have appreciated in value. Like, you just missed out on some stuff because you were so busy thinking and processing. And again, I'm well aware that you need to process information, do your research, but I also get people to think about other parts of their lives where they're able to make decisions a lot quicker. So you wake up in the morning, it doesn't take you that long to decide what clothes you're going to wear because you know what kind of mood you're in. You know how you want to look when you walk out that door. So there's still a process, but you don't have all day. And I know that's a comfortable, easy thing for people to make a decision on. And so I know when we're talking money, because you don't have the conversation enough, you feel like more time is what you need. It's a two-way street, right? I can keep waiting, but I may miss out on opportunities because I'm waiting.
Right.
They say the early bird gets the worm. Well, that's true. Because if I get up early and I can get all these worms before you, I'm going to be nice and full. So by the time you wake up, you're going to be hungry. And I'm going to say, good, I've already eaten multiple times. So you've got to decide as a person, if I'm waiting, what's the opportunity cost? There's always one. Always an opportunity. If you wait, there's something you will miss out on because of waiting. And the opposite is true. I can make a decision, but maybe I feel bad about it, maybe I regret it. You won't know until you do it. So it really boils down to, do you have a system or a belief or a structure or a process on how you make decisions? Let's just rule out money. But when you got to make important decisions, what's that process look like? And that's a question I started asking people. I'm impulsive sometimes, but I felt good when I did it because I needed to get it. I needed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I fight the impulse, but I also think about my long-term success. I think about my family. I think about my daughter. I think a little bit like long-term, but I do also live in reality. So we all juggle those priorities of the now, the future, the long future, the legacy. So when I think about the generational stuff that I talk about a lot is, well, I want to do the best that I can, along with my wife, to do the best that we can for our daughter.
Right.
That's it. I'm going to do the best I can. It's not perfect. It's not always going to be rosy, but I know that if we try, because some people just don't want to try. They just, I'm lazy. I'm not going to do it. Great. You get what you put into it. So I'm going to put a lot of work into ensuring that the next generation or two or three, they won't have to worry about certain things. They're going to have other issues. I just want to take some of those issues that I know they're going to run into off that list.
Right. Well, that makes sense. So, what are some of the best results that you've actually gotten for people? Like some of the success stories you've had.
Yeah, gosh, I got a lot, man. The ones that really get me are the clients with and I've been around long enough now to where they had a young child who's now in college, and I remember opening up the college account, and I remember the story of I don't think we have enough money, Jasper. I'm like, yeah, you do. You have enough to start, and then we will work together to find more money from your village, from the community, and so on. And so seeing people's kids go to school, it blows your mind, because you remember the little kid at the meeting running around. You're like, oh my God, they're going to school. They're like a full blown adult, and then for some, we were able to take a big chunk out of the college expense. We weren't 100% successful on every one, but just to see and hear the reaction when they're like, hey, I'm going to this school, and just so you know, if we didn't do the work that we started years ago, we would have had to borrow a lot more money. I don't mind student loans. I just hate the ones that are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we eliminated a huge piece of the debt. They took out a loan, but it was for $10,000. And I'm like, oh God, they will be able to pay that off before they're 30, easily.
Yeah.
So I think about cases like that. I think about my older clients who were kind of nearing retirement when we met, and I just kind of had the talk of there's going to be a day you might not want to work. I'm excluding you, Michael. I'm like you too. I'm never going to retire. We're just going to keep doing stuff to stay vibrant because we love what we do. Right. But for this young lady, she was an administrator at an elementary school, but just had devoted her life to education. She's like, I just want a nice break. And I said, well, the break will be nice if you have enough money to live a decent quality of life. And so all we did was we kind of adjusted a few things with her retirement account through her employer. Mm-hmm. I was managing a very small portion of her overall assets, but we had a relationship where we just checked in every 3 months. So that was our relationship. I managed very little of her money, but we talked a lot about retirement's coming in 5 years, in 4 years, in 3 years, 2 years. And every meeting was, are we ready? Because if we're not ready on the date you told me, I have failed you. She was like, Jasper, it's my life, it's my. I said, no. You brought me into your world, and I will not allow you, if I have any control of making sure that when you are ready to go, you can go. She retired right on time. she's living a good, we'll call it a retirement life.
Right.
Simply because we did the work. She had to have talks with her children because she was supporting her children financially. And I see that from a lot of parents who want to help their children. I say, well, you can't take out a loan for retirement. So your kids can figure it out. They got time. You don't. And so when I say that to her, she slowly, those payments got a lot lower. A lot lower. A lot lower. I say, because once your kids get off payroll, all that money you were giving to them now goes to you. And that took like a year, Michael. Just to have the talk, to coach her through, and she was like, but I'm their mom. And I mean, I was like, but you need to retire on time. You've done your job. You've helped a lot of lives. It's time for you to enjoy this. You've put the work in. I'm not going to let you tell me that you're going to push out your retirement date.
Well, in some respects, right, you actually helped her do some of that work that she needed to do for her children, because you told her, it's like, you reminded her of the fact that your children need to spread their own wings. So start easing back on it,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The last one I'll share with you, Michael, is I've helped a lot of, we'll call them entry-level professionals start an investment account. Mm-hmm. And they're all, we'll call them, they're super small accounts. And people are like, but why do you do it? I say, because I'm going to make sure they have a relationship with investing. Because so many people are afraid. But I'm like, if I can get people early in their life, just living long enough, they will see the benefits of investing early. Because you don't need that much money. And so I had a young lady, fresh out of college, wanted to do some investing outside of her retirement account. We opened up an account for like $500. And all I was doing for her, I said, we're going to do $50 a month. That's it. You're going to go live your life, have fun, enjoy yourself. So this young lady, I think she's about 27, 28 right now. Portfolio looks all right. We've bought a few more things since that very first meeting. But I kept it so basic for her that she said, I love investing because I had a good teacher. And I warned her about like the downside, because that's what everybody talks about, the fear, the downturns. Those are going to happen, but it always recovers and rebounds over time. But because I set it up in a way that she could understand it, I said, you just got to believe that the data I'm showing you, the information, it works. You just won't know until you're a little bit older. And as she got older, she would always call me when there was bad stuff happening in the world. And I was like, yeah, it affected me too. So we're all in the same boat. And then once things turned around, when she's lived through a couple of like downturns in the market, she's like, my God, you were right. It's like, yeah, I didn't make that stuff up. Like, I believe the stuff that I'm preaching. So seeing like a newer investor, even people who aren't young, who I've helped start investment accounts, like just watching the growth blows my mind. Yeah. I mean, I've made them believers, because you can only work so many hours in the day. I don't care how great you are. You will need to take a break. But while you're taking a break, could you still be generating revenue or income? And the answer is yes, if you set it up. And I've just shown people it's not that hard once you really take a deep dive into your situation and figure out what you can do with what you got at whatever moment in life you're in. And I take people at face value. I know where you want to go. Again, how can I help you to get there? And it is such a cool experience to see it happening in real time. And you're like, that's why I build these relationships.
See, one of the cool things about you, Jasper, is the fact it's not about the money. It's about the relationship. That's what's important to you. So you usually at this point, I usually ask somebody, if you could build the perfect world, what would it look like? But you've been describing that world the whole damn time.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Because everybody who's viewing this, they can look in just over your shoulder, and they see "Let's disrupt generational poverty." Have you disrupted it, at least for some people?
Yes, I have. It it's what drives me to keep doing the work because when you see it happen, you know you made a difference. And it happened with a client of mine who she was like, "Can you come talk to my kids who were all adults?" And we had I'll call it the family powwow. And it was probably 7, 8 years ago. But that one session, I mean, everybody changed the way they lived. Like all of them, all 5 people. Like we'll exclude my client, but everybody she invited was, her family. And since that talk, like now they've got their kids learning about stuff earlier than they've learned, and I'm watching it in real time of like, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing because now I got the person at the top, which is the grandmother who's my client. She's gotten to her kids, and now they are now teaching their kids, her grandbabies, basic lessons. And I'm like, that is what's going to change their outlook when they start earning a living or they get that first job. And then they're going to say, well, I got my first job, so now I need to think about retirement, right? Because nobody tells you that when you get your first job. Nobody told me. And I could have started a Roth IRA when I was 15 because I had earned income. But nobody was telling a 15-year-old kid to think about retirement. It just doesn't come up. Save your money, go have some fun. So I saved a little bit, but maybe I could have been investing, if not for retirement, just telling my parents, hey, I want to open up an investment account since I'm earning money. What kid, again, if a kid isn't exposed to that information, they're not even going to think about that until they're in adulthood. And then they're going to ask, well, why did my mom and dad or granny or auntie, why did they share this stuff earlier? Because they might not have known. So I want to make it common. Like I want to make it easy for families to have these conversations and say, okay, here's what we do as a family. If you have a kid, here are all the accounts we're about to set up. Done. Is everybody okay with that? And just have that conversation with the immediate family, the extended family, the play cousins, just anybody whose family should know about the plan for the kid. So then the kid grows up and is like, man, how these accounts, I didn't really get it. But now I've been given this, we'll call it the playbook. Here's what you're going to do. So if you decide to have kids, you get a job. Like it should be just laid out. This is what we do in this family. If they question it, you out the family. I'm lying. You still gonna be in the family, but we've got to be that intentional.
Right.
I think if we're intentional, so I am a product of my parents who figured it out. They didn't have all the tools. They did a pretty damn good job. So now my goal is let me do a little bit better than they did. So then when my daughter gets older, she's going to say, well, I had my grandparents who did a little bit. My parents did a little bit. Now I'm going to do one better than them. And then that's how you create generational wealth.
Right.
Because now it's built into the fabric of the family. It's you're at the cookout or the barbecue or the family gathering, like, and we're just talking about money or business or investments, like it's talking about sports and entertainment. Because we're comfortable talking about sports and entertainment. Let's get comfortable talking about money and business deals. Just as casual as, again, you seeing your favorite person, coming to town for a concert. Let's get excited about financial sessions and workshops and things that are really going to uplift us and build that wealth. Because once we have it, it's kind of hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
Right? Getting rich, you can get rich and be broke tomorrow. But wealth, ooh, there was a plan.
Yeah,
and we built it.
I do remember this from my youth, right? That the superstar quarterback or the superstar basketball player that we had in the school. I actually had two friends that actually made it to the NBA. They were bench warmers. Well, it was a bench warmer. You make a fairly decent living, right? And even as a bench warmer, but as a benchwarmer, you're only going to last 3 years. So what happened after those 3 years? And there's a tale of two men that I know that one, the family is like, oh, he made it, he's a superstar, blah blah blah, and they spent the money as soon as it came in. The other, the grandmother was calm, cool headed, and she said, no, you, boy, you ain't gonna spend this money yet. You got this is only gonna last you 3 years tops. Even if you get
Yeah.
off the bench, let's just focus on it's only going to last you 3 years. This part is only 3 years. What are you going to do after that? And she made him pocket all that money. She made him bank it. She probably even set him up with a person like you.
Yeah.
He still has that money, and we're talking. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Isn't that, isn't that crazy, Michael?
I'm almost 60 years old, so you know,
But
take away the secret. You know,
but Michael, those are the stories that we got to keep sharing. And I share those types of stories because people don't believe me when I'm telling them this, that if we just have a plan and we work it, it will work out. It's just like the folks who are looking to get a new opportunity, like for a job. Like you tell them where you're looking, or you start doing what's required to get the job. You don't make any excuse. You just do the work. So in your example, like Granny was on point. Like, look, you're gonna come into some money. I'm not saying you can't live. Like you said, let's carve a little bit out to ensure that there's gonna be something there long, long, long after you played. Like long, long, maybe forever. And it is possible, but when people aren't exposed to those types of stories, they still just do not believe it because they cannot see it. I don't know you, Michael, so I don't believe your story. Or I see you on social media or on TV. I hear you, sounds good, but I don't know anybody close enough to me to believe that's legit.
yeah,
And it's like, but if you keep seeing the same types of stories and you hear the same, you would think something would click. But again, we're talking about human behavior.
yeah,
Sometimes you can have the answer right in our face and we still will not believe you.
yeah,
It's too good to be true. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. I don't know those people. I can't afford. So you've already told yourself what you're not going to do. Just flip that. Just tell yourself what is possible.
right.
What you can do. Just believe. That's a critical first step. You just believe
Just
it could happen. It would.
yeah. Okay, so for those who actually are watching this as a video, and it's like, you see the QR code, grab your phone because you need to get that book.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us a little more about the book, though.
Yeah, so the book came about. It's called the Build Wealth Challenge, and there's 8 questions that I'm gonna have you to answer, and it's all for you. And so I used to do these 8 questions as a kind of an assignment before I would meet with people, just so I had an idea of how the conversation might go. And I just kept asking. I was just like, I don't think people understand that financial planning covers all of this because each question is important. There's not one that's more important. It's just if we haven't done some things in a certain area, that could be what's holding us back. And so it's an easy read. First off, it might take you. I read slow, maybe 40 minutes if you go covered. It's not a hard read. I don't try to scare you with too many facts and figures and equations and industry jargon, and I don't use a lot of big words. Like, it was intentionally made for the person to be able to digest and actually execute. Meaning, you will understand that financial planning isn't as hard as you think, but you got to be open and honest with yourself. And those questions require you just to ask yourself, am I doing this or not? Or where on that continuum am I? And I give some easy examples. Like, you go, oh, I get it. You should drop the books. I get it. If that doesn't happen, reach out to me and I will try to make it even easier. But I try my best. And this was my first book. And I said, I want to make financial planning so easy that everybody believes they can do it.
There you go. Okay, so everybody by now has probably scanned that QR code, and they've got and they got the book popping up on their phone. Um, what are the other best ways to get a hold of you and work with you for those who are just listening?
Yeah, if you're just listening, head over to thebuildwealthmovement.com. So thebuildwealthmovement.com is the best way to check me out. I offer quite a bit in terms of information. So I would definitely say take a visit to the blog section on my website just so you can see how I approach different products in the market. I'm not for or against any product or solution. I just want you to be clear. So I try my best to explain things in a way of this could be for you and here's why. Here's what you want to look out for. Here's why you need certain people. Like here's just this timeless, honestly. It's timeless material that whether you are starting out in your career, midway through it, or winding it down, there's something that I've written about that is going to resonate with you. I don't know what it is, but I've got like 35 different articles right now. I got more to do. But there will be something on my website that will probably resonate with you. If you want to get in touch, there's a contact section at the bottom. If you are just curious about anything and everything that I do, just reach out. Like I'm an open book. I am very honest, open, and transparent about how I can help people, and I'll be very clear. If I can't help you, I will tell you that right away. So I won't drag you on and say, "Yeah, this meeting's going great." Because if it's not, I'm gonna call it out. Hey, I don't think we're gonna be a good fit, Michael. Like I can feel like I'm probably not your guy.
Right.
But have you looked into X and Z? And so I'm very aware that all of our time is precious. So if you book some time, just show up and let's have an honest conversation because I'm going to show up and give you the same courtesy.
Cool. All right. Well, Jasper, thanks for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Find that subscribe button wherever it is and get more of these interviews. Binge watch if that's what you want to do, or binge listen. And we really enjoy helping people find the information they need to live a better life. Again, thank you again, Jasper, because you are doing that. That's what you're doing, helping people find a better life.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me, Michael.
All right. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.